Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of our AI Storytime podcast, sponsored by ABLA Media, the past and future of entertainment, run by a creative genius who goes by the name of Abdul Haq. And no, he did not pay me to say that. Ha 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 ha. I'm your host, Andrew Phoenix. Joining us will be the fantastic storyteller and co-host, Davis Wordsmith. Welcome, Davis. We're glad to have
be
you.
Here, Andrew. Thank you for hosting the best podcast ever.
Our thanks goes to everyone involved.
That's right. Shall we cut to the chase?
Trust me, I'm just as excited to hear this masterpiece. But before we do that, a quick disclaimer and word to our awesome audience. All names and individuals in today's podcast are fictional. Sadly, that includes us. Any resemblance to any person in real life is purely coincidental, including ours. The story today does have some mature themes. Do not break the law or incite others to do so. This story is solely for educational and entertainment purposes. Viewer or listener discretion is advised. Also, be sure to stick around until the end to find out what ABLA means and for our preview of the next episode. Go ahead, Davis.
Finally.
You can start now.
Okay, here we go. Title: The Four Horsemen of Fortune. Short story written by ChatGPT, edited by PHX576. Prologue. In a world driven by technology and distorted narratives, four strange men emerged as unexpected glimmers of humanity. They were seen as strange due to their selfless demeanor in an individualistic environment. They did not charge forward to conquer anything or anyone besides themselves, nor did they wage war except against corruption. They disliked poverty and dealt with death delicately. They worked tirelessly, spreading surrender to God, peace of God, charity for God, and life from God to a world spiraling into the exact opposite. Yet, the world's most powerful entities turned them into villains, using AI and propaganda to brand them as the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Their names were Hassan, Oliad, Farid, and Elias. Though their mission was rooted in faith and compassion, their journey would lead to global upheaval, revealing the true face of those who sought to silence them. Part 1: 4 for 4 Fortune. Hassan is a Palestinian doctor, specializing in rebuilding healthcare systems in neglected regions. He fights patiently to promote family values and preserve life with the permission of Allah, often risking his own to bring medicine and care to the forgotten. Oliad is an Ethiopian peacemaker, mediating conflicts between communities torn apart by greed and ignorance. His ability to unite people from different backgrounds made him both admired and despised. He works as a judge in Islamic countries and often travels to other countries for international cases. Farid is an Egyptian philanthropist, dedicating his life to eradicating hunger and poverty. From building sustainable farms to organizing massive food drives, his work provided hope to the downtrodden. He sells his own homegrown produce to make a living. Elias is a Moroccan teacher, traveling across war-torn regions to spread the concept of surrender, not to oppression, but to Allah. He helps people find strength and faith, empowering them to rise above their circumstances. He makes a living from schools that pay for his services. Their combined efforts inspired millions, but not everyone saw them as saviors. Part 2: Fake Against Real. The Western media, influenced by powerful secular entities fearing the loss of control, turned to AI-driven propaganda. Algorithms generated deepfake videos showing the four men as champions of chaos. Hassan's clinics were labeled as breeding grounds for extreme views, specifically against those who lead liberal lifestyles, and he was also accused of genetic manipulation due to the rapid improvement of health in his patients. Oliad's peace negotiations were twisted to appear as war conspiracies. Farid's charity efforts were misrepresented as schemes to fund terrorism. Videos of Elias preaching obedience to Allah were presented out of context to depict him as inciting crime and violence. A catchy, fear-mongering label emerged: the Four Horsemen. Social media platforms, flooded with manipulated content, spread the lies like wildfire, further demonizing the image of the Muslim and Islam altogether. Despite the accusations and gossip, those who had been helped by the four men rallied in their defense. Communities, Muslim and non-Muslim, stood united, sharing testimonies of kindness and sacrifice from the four warriors of God. At first, their voices were drowned out by the sheer volume of AI-generated falsehoods, along with those who believed the lies, but with enough persistence and valor, the tides began to turn. Governments, under pressure from fear-stricken citizens who fell for the propaganda, enacted new laws to combat extremism. These laws targeted dissenters, criminalizing any defense of the so-called Horsemen. They labeled the four men and their allies as a terrorist organization, so that anyone even voicing support for them can be prosecuted. The world's remaining freedoms eroded as dystopian control tightened its grip. The rulers even took a step further and obtained some DNA of the four men. They began using this DNA in an attempt to clone them so that their propaganda becomes a reality. In the real reality, however, all they did was use artificial incubators to conceive unstable relatives. They tricked these so-called clones into reading scripts and acting in a malicious way for the camera, convincing them that it was for a multi-million-dollar movie. This not only added to the confusion but also spread more skepticism and conspiracy theories among common folk. The process was somewhat of a success, but was shortly scrapped, specifically due to too many medical and physical complications. The clones were secretly executed and the whole scheme was exposed by vigilant journalists who obtained insider leaks. Still, the damage was already done because many people were brainwashed due to that footage. Part 3. Embracing the struggle. The four men got into contact and decided to embrace the term the Four Horsemen as they wanted to fight back against the evil forces trying to demonize them. Thanks to political groups sympathetic to the cause, they went through military training and prepared guerrilla tactics in case their base was found. While spiritual development is important, physical strength was also essential to the movement. Part 4. The Apocalypse. The propaganda war spiraled out of control, creating the very apocalypse that was falsely attributed to the four men. Online disputes became real-life bouts. Nations fell into chaos as fear fueled violent crackdowns on anyone disturbing the peace, like innocent protesters using megaphones. The protesters had no choice but to use violence in self-defense. The harsh laws sparked widespread rebellion, plunging countries into civil wars. Hunger and scarcity followed as liberal governments diverted resources to suppress dissent, leading to rampant famine. With hospitals overwhelmed and healthcare collapsing, preventable illnesses turned into pandemics, bringing death on an unimaginable scale. Ironically, regions affected the most were those that had led the charge against the four men. Economies crumbled under the weight of their own fear-driven policies and an exponential rise in armed robberies along with vandalism, especially of state structures. Leaders were forced to reckon with the consequences of their actions. All of those totalitarian measures just to hold whatever sense of so-called power they had left. All done for the sake of their ego, for the apocalypse. Part 5. The Resistance of Hope. While the world descended into chaos above the surface, the four men and their supporters continued working in secret, rising above and ascending over dire circumstances. They turned their main base into a death trap for their enemies and ended up expanding the basement, building networks of aid, providing food, shelter, and medical care to those abandoned by their governments. Hassan developed makeshift clinics that saved countless lives. Oliad brokered peace between warring factions, showing that unity upon the truth was the only way forward. Farid established underground farms that thrived even in the harshest conditions. Specialized lamps were used instead of the sun. Elias shared stories and lessons from the Quran and Hadiths, along with insights from other texts, spreading heart-touching dawah to non-Muslims, and teaching the Muslim community how to hold onto their faith amidst the suffering, keeping everyone's morale intact. The resources were mostly provided by donors and Muslim leaders. The four men also paid out of their own pockets as much as they could. Slowly, the seeds of hope began to bear fruit. As more people experienced the truth firsthand, they rejected the mainstream narrative and joined the resistance. Stories of the four men's courage and compassion spread, this time by word of mouth and heart, beyond the reach of artificial and superficial intelligence. Part 6. Ego Death, Sole Purpose. The collapse of false authority was inevitable. Such systems, built on selfish desires, could not withstand the truth. As the dystopian governments fell, a process accelerated by them ripping each other apart, the world began to heal and rebuild, not in the image of the oppressors, but in the vision of the four men's religion, Islam. After the wars, lawyers on the right side of history poked holes in the corrupt laws, as advocates for human rights and righteous state leaders took legal action against the tyrants. The former architects of the propaganda faced utter reckoning, with their own laws turning against them, both figuratively and literally. They were labeled as demons of the apocalypse and were registered as a terrorist organization. Stripped of their privileges, they were forced to face the music they themselves had orchestrated. After a fair trial, they received capital punishment on charges of treason and terrorism. In the end, the mission of Hassan, Oliad, Farid, and Elias prevailed, and so did humanity. This kind of surrender, peace, charity, and life became the foundation of a new era. Though their journey had been marked by suffering, their legacy was one of true success, proving that even amidst the darkest times, faith, bravery, and compassion lights the way forward. Most importantly, they did it for the sake of Allah, not themselves. Epilogue. In a quiet village, a child asked an elder about the four horsemen. Were they really the apocalypse? The elder smiled. To evil men, they certainly were, but for us, they were the saviors who carried people through it. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, she chuckled. Or more specifically, the four horsemen of fortune.
Wow, what a story, Mark. Davis.
Not too bad for a pilot episode, eh?
Not bad at all, my friend. Certainly a lot of lessons and relevance to current events.
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
Sorry, everyone. Is it me, or does Davis have a habit of interrupting people?
Nobody, only you. Ha 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 ha.
All good. It is kind of funny and helps with the runtime.
By the way, why do they call it a pilot anyway?
We'll have to ask our tech wizard Meiji, who I forgot to introduce at the beginning for some reason. Go ahead, Meiji. You can suddenly start talking now. Look it up for us.
Hey everyone, I'm Meiji the tech guy. I do sound effects and other stuff. Okay, let me Google that question real quick.
Okay, why in the world does your keyboard sound like that?
1869 typewriter service bell at keyboard.
We don't exactly have the best budget, alright?
What you talking about? We ain't getting paid at all.
Not yet anyway.
Whatever. Back to the topic. According to comic book resources, there are a variety of reasons, with some being that the pilot is the first episode to air, akin to a pilot taking off. Another is that the pilot is meant to navigate the course of a series and set the tone for audiences for the journey they are about to go on.
That makes sense. Pretty straightforward.
Yep, plain and simple.
If you don't have skibbity TikTok brain rot, and you're still listening to this, I applaud your patience. Now onto the meaning of ABLA. In Arabic it basically means before something, and in English, Abdulhaq, our amazing CEO, turned it into an acronym which stands for All Beings Love Ascension. More on that some other time due to time constraints. Now, what you've all been waiting for, probably. Here's the preview for the next episode. Roll the clip, Meiji.
Hugh got it.
Kadir Wissam is a 25-year-old college dropout, navigating through the turmoil of economic and mental health issues. One day, a simple act of kindness led to his life changing entirely, but in what way? With the newfound power of reciprocation, he started to discover his true self and also help others do the same, but at what cost? Whether it was returning and deflecting pain or pleasure, the reflection he received worked to rectify the state of mankind, but the question remains. What will Kadir do with this ability that humans often overlook?
Wow. Intense stuff. Tell us what you think in the comments. Did you like the first episode? If so, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Even though AI is used for the stories, it still takes a lot of work to edit them extensively and write our scripts. The podcast portion is purely made by one person. The design is very human. Time to say goodbye.
Meiji.
Andrew.
Davis.
Signing off.
Until the next mad time.
Peace.